what's up? Welcome once again to the Warren Hayes Show. I am Mr. Warren Hayes, and you have decided to allow me to regale you with some thoughts and opinions about wrestling content provided to us by World Wrestling Entertainment, Inc. Thank you very much, actually, for clicking play and watching this. I really appreciate it. It's a very nice gesture. You really don't have to do that, and that's what makes it all the more wonderful. You are currently watching my Raw review video, my Raw review for the June 25 Raw. Just before we move right into that, quick programming note. As always, on tomorrow, on Wednesday being the 27th, June 27th, I will have my SmackDown review, which will be posted right here on my YouTube channel. And then I believe on Thursday, I think what I'm going to do, because I've watched day one at this stage, at the moment I'm recording this, which is on Tuesday, on the 26th. Mid-afternoon, I've watched the first day of the UK tournament, which was a blast, which was a lot of fun. And if you haven't watched it yet, I do suggest you go ahead. I'm going to watch day two later today. I will probably be doing a review of the UK tournament, posting it up probably on Thursday. Man, this is a lot of fun. It was really, really a lot of fun. I'm discovering new talent at the same time. I'm rediscovering talent I was acquainted with. And I really think putting Zach Gibson over as the number one contender to Pete Dunne's UK championship was really the best move. It was super, super smart. But I'll get into that in my review. Oh, and honestly, if you haven't watched day one yet, aside from all the great qualifying matches, the quarterfinals, the semifinals, I should say, not qualifying, but aside from the tournament itself, British Strong Style, Tyler Bate, Trent Seven, Pete Dunne versus the Undisputed Era in a 6-man tag is a must-see. And ignites that flame where you say, man, can we get trios titles? Can we get a trios division? I'm not a fan of trios. Trios division, trios. It doesn't speak to me, but holy crap. This match the boys put on was awesome, but I'm getting too deep into it already. I made a note of it here. It's like programming note, talk about UK tournament. Don't go in too deep, and I'm already going in too deep. But basically, watch the thing. Watch day one. It's a great show, regardless. But I mean, cherry on top, Undisputed Era versus British Strong Style. Man, that was fantastic. If you need to watch it for only one thing, if you're like, yeah, I don't like these wrestlers, I don't know. Well, here you've got 6 wrestlers that you know and care about, and they put on a phenomenal match. They can do no wrong. Undisputed Era can do no wrong. I don't know why I took this already. I'm not that thirsty yet. All right. So basically, so Wednesday will be my SmackDown review. Thursday, my complete review of both days of the UK tournament. I hope you jump in to watch. Oh, and since NXT will be back to regular programming this week, on Wednesday after NXT, I will likely jump on Periscope to do another live post-show review, where then you guys can come in and chat and ask questions and give your opinions and challenge mine. And that's something that's important. This is something that's actually a lot of fun, is to have your opinion challenged. And it doesn't necessarily mean I'll agree with you. And even if your opinion is good, like I consider myself open enough to let my opinion be changed if you put a compelling argument out there. It may not change instantly just like that, just because you said it, just like that. But I could let it stew in my head a little bit, think about it, maybe do a little Google research, And who knows? Maybe you will get to change my mind on stuff. I'm a guy. I'm a wrestling fan. I'm a smark that has opinions. These are not facts. They're opinions. So you're entitled to disagree with them, just as you're entitled to agree with them, and then, be cool. So Raw last night, June 25th, 2018, was from San Diego, California. Man, I was really frustrated with Raw last night. As I was watching it, I got really, really exhausted at some point. And as I tweeted off, I was like, man, I have to just go get some sleep and think about it more in the morning. Let the night bring counsel. But holy smokes, I found last night's Raw to be a hard one to swallow. It baffled me. I think that it was an okay show overall. After waking up this morning, having a coffee, doing my little thing, walking the dog, I thought to myself, I was thinking, I was like, it wasn't a bad show. It's just there were a lot of things that are important to me that weren't taken into consideration, and that irritates me. Like continuity and logic. It didn't start off. The first segment was a testament of what we were supposed to expect. Let's just go right ahead. Kurt Angle and we'll jump right in. Kurt Angle and Baron Corbin are in the ring, and JoJo introduces Kurt, but not Baron Corbin. So Baron Corbin takes offense to this, and off mic, goes towards JoJo and says, so JoJo says, oh, okay. And JoJo announces, accompanied to the ring by Baron Corbin, and he waves her off, and he's like, no. I'm not accompanying. I'm with him. I'm with Stephanie McMahon's constable. So basically, after 3 times, JoJo announces Baron Corbin as Stephanie McMahon's personally appointed constable of Raw, Baron Corbin, and now he's happy. And I thought that was such a nice touch. Good character work on Corbin's part there. Kurt starts talking. He said last week he said that there were, we'd have a match, a multi-man match to determine the winner, who would be the number 1 contender to the Universal title. Paul Heyman posted something on Facebook this weekend, and apparently this is the emphasis of the segment. Something that happened on social media becomes like the core of a rather major development, saying that Brock has no more interest in, I don't know, he's saying that Brock has no more interest in Roman Reigns because he's lost all his opportunities. He's rambling a bit. Roman Reigns' music hits and he interrupts Kurt again. I swear Kurt is going to bust a gasket at some point towards Roman, because Roman never lets Kurt finish what he's going to say. And maybe Kurt has nice things to say about Roman Reigns. Maybe Kurt, again this week, because the same thing happened last week, maybe Kurt was in the ring about to say, well, I'm appointing Roman Reigns as the number 1 contender to the Universal title. But as he's about to say it, Roman feels like he has to interrupt, comes down to the ring, and Kurt would be like, screw this guy. You won't let me finish. He interrupts me. I'm not giving him an opportunity. I think Roman is digging his own grave here. And so that's it. So Roman comes to the ring, and just as Kurt starts talking to Roman, Bobby Lashley's music hits again. He says he does, and he comes to the ring. Bobby says to Roman he deserves to hear what Kurt has to say just as much as you do. You've had your chance to beat Brock. You've had 3 years to beat Brock. Now, I don't know why this is resonating with some people. Like, oh, that's right. This is the truth. Samoa Joe was essentially saying the exact same thing in their build-up to Backlash. Saying, you can't get the job done. I'm the guy who can get the job done. You keep getting your opportunities. I mean, there's nothing new no new ground that's being tread here, except that it's Bobby Lashley that's saying it with a certain fire and passion, which is fun. So the only thing that you've proven, Bobby Lashley basically says, the only thing that you've proven within the last 3 years is that you cannot beat Brock Lesnar. I'm the only guy who has the skill set to do it. All right. Roman counters by saying, some of you may not remember, but old Bobby was here 10 years ago, and he was in the main event of WrestleMania 10 years ago, which is false. Bobby Lashley has never main evented WrestleMania. Bobby Lashley, unless you consider, I think it was WrestleMania 24. If you consider being in a match where you're accompanied to the ring by Donald Trump, so you're trying to win a match so that Trump can shave Vince McMahon's head, unless you consider that a main event match, no, he's never been in a main event match. I don't consider it to be a main event match. I don't think you should either. And he says, and Roman also tries to throw shade on his MMA career. And I think some people pointed out that, Bobby Lashley's record was 15-2 in MMA. And sure, he was never a breakout star like Rousey or Lesnar or Conor McGregor, but a 15-2 record is actually really good. That is a super winning record. I think he did good for himself. Yeah, so that and then Roman, I don't know if he was trying, you left MMA, you went to MMA and you tried to make and you left because you couldn't make an impact or something like that. And I tweeted that I tossed that out on Twitter saying, oh, Roman, are you trying to be clever? I'm not sure if you're trying to be clever or not. Most people who responded to that said, you're the one being clever here, Warren. I don't think Roman was trying to be clever at all. Yeah, so basically so here's the part that really bothers me. This is the first thing that really bothered me, is that Kurt announces that there's a snafu in contract negotiations with Brock Lesnar. So because of that snafu, we're not getting a multi-man match at Extreme Rules because Brock won't have it. How does this work exactly? How does Brock Lesnar's contract affect a match that he's not even involved in? Right? First of all, it doesn't make sense. First of all, the only thing that this serves to prove, to demonstrate, is that Brock Lesnar holds all the cards. And no one in WWE has the capacity to draw a line and say, no. All this shows is that Brock Lesnar has this company, is holding this company hostage. And it's odd because WWE positioning itself as soft or weak is something that we just don't normally see. And this is my second point, this positions Vince McMahon as weak. A couple of weeks ago, I don't know if you remember, off the once we came back, I think from Greatest Royal Rumble, you remember Vince was in a short backstage interview where he basically said, he was responding to what Roman Reigns had said either the same night or the previous. It's a bit of a jumble for me. But, when Roman was complaining that, Brock gets to do whatever he wants. Brock has complete authority here. He does whatever he wants. And you remember Vince McMahon was there and basically saying, does Brock Lesnar have special privileges? Yes, Brock Lesnar does have special privileges. Which implies that Vince McMahon is personally involved in negotiations with Brock Lesnar. So if this contract shit is putting Vince in, so this contract shit has been overseen by Vince. Vince is therefore in a position of weakness. Vince McMahon is positioning himself as weak, as unauthoritarian, facing one of his wrestlers who's just basically holding a title hostage. This doesn't make sense. Strip Brock Lesnar of the goddamn title. I mean, that's what you do, right? Like, if you were a promoter, now, of course, I get it, all right? This is kayfabe. I get it, okay? They can do whatever they want, but at some point, your kayfabe does have to have a little logic. Vince McMahon never took any crap from anyone. Even when he was feuding with Stone Cold, he always tried to get one up on Stone Cold, right? But for years, Vince has been portrayed as a god among men. He fought God. Don't forget that. He's a genetic jackhammer. Like, he's a huge, larger than life character that no one would say a cross word to. Now, what you're doing here is you're allowing the inmates to dictate how things are going. Now, I can understand Kurt Angle is a wishy-washy GM, and he doesn't have credibility because of the way, of course, that it's being handled with Stephanie McMahon and being tossed in with Baron Corbin. He's being slowly buried, and this is typical now of the Raw GMs because Stephanie McMahon always seems to be the deal breaker here, or the deal maker, depending on the situations. Where was I going with this? Right, so if Kurt can't get the job done, and besides, contracts are probably out of his hands, why is Vince letting Brock dictate any conditions, or why is he letting Brock establish any rules as to what's going to happen at a pay-per-view? And it doesn't work for me. Again, I know this is kayfabe, but Ultimate Warrior went to Vince McMahon and said, "Look, you have to give me a huge pay bump, or else I'm not going to work the next shows." Vince said, "Fine." The next day, Warrior was fired. Bret Hart didn't want to drop the title to Shawn Michaels. Vince McMahon screwed him out of the title. I don't understand why we're not seeing Vince McMahon either coming in to settle this garbage, or why this is happening in the first place. It doesn't make sense. The only reason that they're doing this is because literally Vince woke up Monday morning and said, "Scrap the multi-man match." What? Yeah, we're not doing it anymore. One of these classic stories where you hear Vince McMahon just flipping the script on a dime. Like, "No, we're not doing this anymore." And then everyone's scrambling to come up with a good idea, and there's no good ideas that come out because, man, creative is strapped for ideas these days. For Raw, anyway. Look, I get it. This is kayfabe, and kayfabe versus reality is two different things. But we, as fans, have grown to understand and appreciate that Vince McMahon, as an individual, as a businessman, as the owner of the company, doesn't take any guff from anyone. Is he really bending over backwards to accommodate Brock Lesnar? This makes no sense to me. I don't know why they're pulling. This is the explanation that we got, and that's that. Anyway, Roman then, let's continue on with the segment, shall we? Roman basically then tells Bobby Lashley, "Well, you don't have a match at Extreme Rules. I don't have a match at Extreme Rules. Why don't we do this right here, right now, tonight?" All right. Roman Reigns tells Bobby Lashley, you don't have a match at Extreme Rules. Fine. I don't have a match at Extreme Rules. Fine. Oh, so immediately you're thinking, well, let's have a match at Extreme Rules. But in Roman's logic, it's like, well, since we don't have a match scheduled at a pay-per-view 3 weeks from now. Let's have a match right now. Seriously, at this point, I am already baffled by everything that's going on. It only went downhill from here, at least for the first hour. And the Revival come out and basically challenge Roman and Lashley again to a match. And I see this going and I'm like, oh, 50-50 booking. And I wasn't wrong. Basically, what they did this week is what they should have done last week. And that is show Roman and Lashley being unable to really coordinate and understand each other, let their egos get the best of them, and allow the Revival to get the pin last week. And then if you want to do 50-50 booking and then do another match, then have the Revival lose this week. But I digress. Anyway, the Revival is basically, owning the match, doing all their great usual double team offense. Lashley is early on your babyface in peril. He hot tags Roman, who hits power moves on Scott Dawson. Roman hits a drive-by on both members of the Revival. As we come back from commercial, Roman Reigns is the babyface in peril. More double team tactics, cutting Roman completely off from Bobby Lashley, which is fantastic and what we expect from a team of the caliber of the Revival. At some point, Scott Dawson has Roman on the ground and he goes down with a knee and he cracks his knee on the side of Roman's head. It was really hard. That was a hard knee. Roman eventually gets the hot tag to Bobby, who comes in and explodes. And this was really fun. Bobby hits a huge spine buster. And the end comes when Lashley goes for the spear. Roman tags himself in. Superman punches Dash Wilder. Then goes to argue with Bobby Lashley a little more. He spears Dawson. But Wilder rolls Roman up, hooks the tights, and the Revival win, pinning Roman Reigns relatively clean, mind you. I think this is a big deal overall. Let's be frank. Even though this whole segment was a bit of a wash and confusing and aggravating, this is a big deal for the Revival, and I'm really happy. It was an okay match. It was fine. It was a fine match. Nothing to write home about. But, man, that was really something to see the Revival go over Roman. Good job. And to be honest, we're starting to see some real fire from Bobby Lashley. Slow build. We're getting there. I liked it. After the match, Bobby and Roman argue in the ring, and Bobby tells Roman something to the effect, let me do that and let me finish the job next time, as if they're legit tag partners. Again, something that doesn't make sense. If I were Bobby Lashley, instead of saying next time let me do it, it's like, dude, you are the worst tag team partner. That's what I'd say, not next time I'll handle it. No, there won't be a next time, Roman. And Roman looked completely dejected. It's like, yeah, man, I fucked up. Next up, we have the Deleters of World. Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt, who are cutting a promo and saying that they don't know what the B team doesn't know what they got themselves into. They head to the ring. Axel and Bo Dallas are doing their impersonation of Matt and Bray once again, which is pretty cool. I'm kind of fearful that WWE are going to drive this one into the ground, and they're going to do it a little too often. That leads us into a match where Matt Hardy, this leads us into a match where Curtis Axel faces Matt Hardy. And they're continuing with the original angle, I guess. The genesis of the B team is that the B team wins matches purely accidentally, I guess. Because the ending came when Curtis Axel and Matt Hardy are climbing the turnbuckle, going to the top rope. going to the top rope, and I think what was meant to happen was Matt was supposed to slip, like purposefully botch a move, and Curtis Axel basically falls on top of him. That's essentially what happened. I think that's what it is. I don't think it was like a legit botch. I think it was staged. And Axel falls on top of him, 1, 2, 3, and then they're like, "Oh my God, we won!" Yeah, I don't know what to make of this. The impersonations are funny, but they can't be something that they go on with too long. And I hope this builds to a final deletion type match. This is what I'm hoping. I hope this is the build that they're going for. It's the only match, by the way. Deleters of Worlds versus B Team is at this moment, the only officially announced match for Extreme Rules. And it's not even a stip match. It's just like... by the way, props to the two marks in the front row who actually went and bought B Team t-shirts instead of heading on to Walmart and getting 2 white Gildan t-shirts for $5 and $1.50 worth of Sharpie and drawing the B on them themselves. Good job, marks. I'm having cider, by the way, today. I usually have coffee, but it's mid-afternoon. I figured I could go with cider. This is excellent cider, by the way. Made in my home province of Quebec. From the Milton Cidery. Sid is what it's called. It's really, really tasty. It's my favorite. They also do another type of cider with hops. It's delicious, very refreshing. I didn't find any. And besides, my girlfriend prefers this one to the hops one. Sometimes you got to do things for others, and then they do things to you, for you. We get a recap of the Sasha Bayley situation, and Kurt and Sasha are backstage arguing. Then we see the Authors of Pain, who make their grand return to the Raw main roster, and they shove some crew guy down to the ground. And Titus O'Neil takes offense to this, saying that the crew works hard, man. That's not cool, man. I'm like, Titus, man, you are about to get eaten alive, bro. So that segment ended. Next segment after that is we see Alicia Fox hugging Bayley. Alicia was super cute, cut hair, looking great, all bubbly. Then Kurt arrives and, basically says, hey, Alicia, get lost. I want to talk to Bayley. Okay, and that's all we would see from Alicia Fox. She was in her ring gear and everything. Go figure. For some reason, Kurt decides that Bayley has to compete with Sasha in a 6-woman tag match with Ember Moon against the Riot Squad. And Bayley's like, what? Why? And Kurt is like, look, this is your last chance for the both of you to get along. Last chance before what? Why are we so invested in getting Bayley and Sasha to get along? Anyway, I'll get into this in a short while, but this is part of the continuous baffling of the June 25 Raw for me. Unless what? This is your last chance. Last chance. Anyway, like I said, I'll get into it a little later. We have Authors of Pain against the most jobber-looking jobbers that ever jobbed. Rich and Rex Gibson, who were also decked out in... Look, I found they had Hispanic airs, and they were clearly wearing the colors of Mexico. Rich and Rex Gibson, not Gonzalez, not Estrada, I don't know what was going on here. It's a squashy squish squash. And the Authors of Pain, after the squishy squish squash, decide to beat down on the Gibson boys, and Titus Worldwide come in for the save. They run in. Authors of Pain step out of the ring. These are not my Authors of Pain, because my Authors of Pain would have picked up the jabronis and tossed them onto Titus O'Neil, and they would have beat the living hell out of Titus O'Neil right there, and Apollo Crews too. That's my Authors of Pain. Not two guys who are like, all right, fine, we're done here anyway. No. Anyway, could be worse. So basically, I think we have our pre-show match for Extreme Rules. Titus Worldwide versus the AOP. That's my prediction. Kurt and Baron Corbin are backstage arguing about stuff. Finn walks in and he asks to understand why the multi-man match was scrapped because of Brock's contract status. And I was like, yes, okay, so maybe this actually made me happy, because then I was like, oh, okay, good. So WWE are going via one of their wrestlers, who is basically the audience, is going to go ask Kurt, look, could you explain this? Because I don't get it. I was looking forward to this match. Could you please explain? But no, then Baron goes out, hey, you don't deserve a match, Shorty. I was like, oh my God. Finn makes fun of Baron Corbin's vest, saying that he looks like a manager at a TGI Fridays. And then Braun comes in and he says, I've been a little too harsh with Kevin Owens. All he wants is to be my friend. Let me be his tag team partner. And Kurt is like, yeah, well, who are you going to fight? Well, why don't I fight Finn and Baron Corbin? And the baffling continues. Last week, Braun got involved in a situation because he said it himself. Finn is my buddy and I look out for my buddies. And now this week, he wants to fight his buddy. Ah! This is so frustrating. But it is, though. It doesn't make sense. Even the fact that Finn's my buddy. Even last week, I was like, okay, since when did he officially become your buddy? Because you guys have been in fights. Well, maybe it's because of the fact that Finn almost beat Braun. Braun now respects him. Maybe that's the thing, but they never gave a real reason for Braun to be cozying up to Finn. And it seems so natural, too. Finn was like, yeah, he's my friend. And now here's like, well, I'll fight Finn and that guy. All right, and the baffled train continues because Alexa comes down to the ring. It's our next segment. So, Alexa comes to the ring with Mickie James, who's back. I think the last time we saw Mickie James was the qualifying gauntlet for Money in the Bank. Wasn't that the last time we saw her? And she was clearly a babyface because she was in her hometown. I get it, but she was working as a babyface. And now first of all, she's friends with Alexa again, because she's been going solo for a couple of weeks now. For a few weeks. And she's a heel again. Why does none of this make sense? So Mickie puts Alexa over as being a 3-time Raw Women's Champion. Alexa calls Ronda an entitled spoiled brat, which is the pot calling the kettle black, of course. That's the idea of this promo. And she's back to calling Nia bully and shaming her weight. She says that Nia has the capacity to portray herself as the victim. And here's one thing that's really cool. And, some people pointed out. Anyway, Alexa Bliss is an incredible promo. She was destroying the what chants. Like every time that Alexa would be on the point of naturally taking a pause sometimes wrestlers do in promos. You know, the audience was ready with a what chant, but she just ran right through the what chants as she's done before. And good on her. You know, she, instead of taking a pause, she'd just continue, and then you'd hear the what chant in the background having no effect. She's an incredible promo. You can say whatever you want about Alexa Bliss. The one thing you can't take away from her is her capacity to deliver a killer promo. Natalia's music hits, says he after taking a sip of cider, right? Natalya says only 23 days before Ronda comes back to deal with you, Alexa. And Alexa's like, well, I'm so happy that you and Ronda know how to count down from 30. Not impressed with her math skills, apparently. Basically, exchange stuff about social media, putting all your life out there. And Natalya does put a lot of stuff on social media. But it doesn't bother me. So basically, Natalya challenges Alexa to a match. And it's like, oh, okay, we're going to have a match. Well, I didn't come alone. And Nia comes out with Natalya. Nia is apparently a babyface again. We come back from commercial and the match is already underway. Natalya hits a Michinoku driver on Alexa. Alexa goes for her knee strike, her knee drops. You know, she does these one knee drops and then jumps over, flips back somersaults into another pair of knee drops. She whiffs both of them. Good on Natalya for not trying to sell them as well, despite they were completely whiffed. And speaking of whiffs, you know, Mickey was supposed to grab Natalya's leg and she whiffs her interference there. It still works though. It still works for the ending. Alexa hits her big right hand punch and just lays Natalya out. Natalya hits the discus lariat on Alexa, sharpshooter on Alexa. Alexa taps. Why would you book your champion in her first match, even if it's non-title? Why would you book her in her first match since winning the belt to lose? That's all I'm going to say about that. It wasn't much of it was not much of a match anyway. The whole segment was it was a little too long. We see Seth backstage. He says no excuses. No excuse. He's not going to make any excuses for losing. It's basically the same promo he did last week. I made at the end of the match, he made an open challenge. He lost to Dolph. And I have 7 days to let that loss get to me, so I'm fired up for tonight. Next segment, we have Jinder Mahal taking photos with Sunil Singh, and they're smiling a lot. They look very much at peace. Ruby Riott and the Riott Squad arrives. Ruby takes the camera and is like, hey, Jinder, let me take a couple of pictures. And unless you haven't been watching the past couple of weeks, this might have come to a shock to you. This must not have come to a shock to you. Ruby Riott takes the camera and throws it to the ground, smashing it to bits. And, you know, the Riott Squad are laughing. And Jinder is like, oh, Shanti. You know, he's, you know, jobber Jinder. Again, this is a bit, anyway, I'll talk about this a little later when I talk about Bayley, because these two are oddly interconnected. But what I thought was amazing in this scene was the photographer. As Ruby smashes it, the photographer for the rest of the segment was like, and just with his hands on his hips, just like, he was told, you're not in the scene, man, just relax and don't do too much. But he didn't do anything. If I was a photographer and someone snatched my camera and smashed it to pieces, oh my God, I would unload some verbal abuse. You wouldn't believe it. I was like, no, you stay here. Hey, you know what? You're working here. I know where to find you. I'm calling the cops. This is destruction of private property. Anyway, the photographer made me smile. 6-woman tag match. Because we haven't had enough of those on Raw. Never have enough of those 6-women tag matches on Raw. The Riot Squad take on Bayley, Sasha Banks, and Ember Moon. All right, we're going to get into the meat of this, but I just want to point out, I'm not going to spend too much time on the match because, again, it wasn't much of a match. I will say, Ember Moon, once again, is outshining every woman on the Raw roster right now. She put in most of the offense. She took most of the offense. She looked great, as she usually does. I even thought Liv Morgan looked good in this match. Her Hurricane Rana on Ember on the outside, that was beautiful. But we're going to skip right to the meat of it, and this is the most... Anyway, let's just jump right to it. Sasha gets pinned. Riot Squad wins. Bayley snaps. Like, completely snaps. She's had enough of Sasha Banks. And she goes right after her. Like, the minute that the winner is announced, she's in there and she lays into Sasha. She beats the shit out of Sasha Banks. And what does the crowd do? The crowd pops huge. Go back and listen to the reaction Bayley gets when she unloads on Sasha. See, she smashes her face against the turnbuckles. That looked savage. Tosses her out of the ring. Throws her into the steps twice. The arena is going bonkers for this. She calls out Sasha. She goes over Sasha, a prone Sasha on the ground. She looks down at her and she says, I've had enough, basically. You think you're better than me. Let me tell you something. You ain't shit. And she walks off. This was fantastic. But the caveat that I will bring here is it's fantastic because Bayley showed fire and because we're getting this payoff that we've been wanting. But it's not super positive. It's not like, oh yeah, good on us. Finally, they're doing it. I think that there's more of a general sense of relief that they're finally getting on with it. I think that's mostly it. This stuff has been going on for the better part of 2018, where they've been teasing at it, hinting at it. You feel they're going to go for it, but no, they take it back. Like, honestly, it's about time, and I'm just relieved that this is happening, right? Okay. Now, the bone of contention that everyone has right now is about Bayley being a heel. Now, I think people are like, oh, no, Bayley's not being a heel. She's just really fed up and tired of Sasha always doing her, instead of Sasha always, messing around with her. She's had enough. This is just, cathartic. This is vengeance for her. I get where you're coming from. But I think Bayley is going to be a heel. I think they're positioning her as a heel. First and foremost, when she came out for her entrance, she was wearing a black jacket. Bayley never wears black. All right, that's her first sign that she's a heel. It's like Sami Zayn when he finally turned heel. He started wearing a black hat. These people, these wrestlers, they try to put in their little creative touches wherever they can in these little details. Trust me. Black jacket equals heel turn. And the way that the commentating team was putting this over, I'm so shocked. I never knew Bayley had this in her. What a disgusting display. This is shocking. A shocking display by Bayley. That is heel talk, right? And Corey Graves, despite him waffling on some issues, is supposed to be your heel commentator. Now, if the heel commentator is backing you up, then I would suggest that you are a heel. I am convinced that in this situation, Bayley is going to be the heel and Sasha Banks is going to be the babyface. Which goes completely against the crowd reaction that we saw, because people wanted Bayley to do something about this, and goes completely against the natural inclinations of both Sasha and Bayley. Bayley is a natural babyface. Sasha, have you seen Sasha Banks? In NXT, Sasha is a natural heel. Why? Why is creative deciding to go down this other path where they will put both of these women who needed a turn in their feud, putting them both into roles that don't make use of their natural strengths? This is Bobby Roode all over again. And I know what some of you are going to say. Sami Zayn is a natural babyface. They turned him heel, and that's working out great for him. Yeah, but Sami Zayn had all the naturals to switch on either side. We never envisioned Sami Zayn as a heel because he's been a babyface for most of his career. We've at least seen Sasha as both a face and a heel. And trust me, heel Sasha Banks is much more entertaining than babyface Sasha. Oh! I don't get it. So not only are they doing the turn, but they're turning Bayley heel in this. All right, fine. Look at the reaction she got last night in her heel attack. Look at the reaction the audience gave her. I never thought Bayley had this in her. I knew she had it in her. You know why? Because I freaking watched NXT. I know she's like this because she's been mismanaged on Maine since she arrived. Her character was assassinated. It's just that simple. The faithful, those of us who have been following her career, I'm going to call myself a faithful, know she has this fire in her. This isn't a surprise. This is something we were expecting. This is something she should have had for a long time. It's not shocking. And something tells me the audience gets it too. We're all going to side with Bayley on this. Sasha was such a jerk to her. Pushing her off the elimination chamber. Remember that? Getting her eliminated? Sasha is the heel in this situation. Very naturally. I think maybe they're like, oh no, we'll swerve them. Bayley will be the heel. They were all expecting Sasha, but Bayley will... Stupid. I think they're doing a mistake. We're almost done with this Bayley-Sasha business. Because I have one more thing to say, but I'll wait till we get there in the segment. Kurt is backstage. He's telling a ref he wants to find Bayley. Then Kevin Owens runs in and he's panicking because he has to team with Braun. And Kurt is having a giggle at this. What are you talking about? This could be the start of a beautiful friendship. No Way Jose and the party line. I'm not going to call it a conga line because it's not a conga line. No Way Jose comes to the ring. He asks for a rematch against Mojo Rawley, who comes out and he has a mic. And he basically says, "You're not getting a rematch. No way, Jose. You're not getting a rematch." And he starts berating one of the members of the party line. He's dressed up in a cheeseburger. And he starts berating, "What's your name, Todd? Todd, is this how your mother... Are you making your mama proud? You think you'll ever be a WWE superstar?" And he starts berating him. Of course, the audience gets behind Todd. Who wouldn't? And tons of people have said it before. On Twitter and on other review shows, but I'll say it as well. In those 2 minutes, Todd, the cheeseburger guy, has been more over than Mojo Rawley his entire WWE run. Anyway, so basically, yeah, Mojo is telling Todd, well, is this how you want to be a WWE superstar? And Mojo is basically projecting his own vision of success onto this guy. Maybe this guy doesn't want to be a WWE superstar. Maybe it's like, no, man, I just want to be I don't want to be a graphic designer. That's all I want to be. I've almost finished school, and I'm pretty good at Adobe Illustrator. That's all I want to do. Don't you want to be a WWE superstar? You think this is how it's going to be? But I don't want to be a WWE. It's not something that crossed my mind. That's not what, basically what a lot of fans do to wrestlers, projecting their own vision of success onto a wrestler, because, if a wrestler doesn't become world champion within 6 months of their debut, then they failed at life. Yeah, so in Mojo, you know what? Mojo's new gimmick should be my angry neighbor who really dislikes it when kids come over and play in the yard. That's who he came off as. And it's an odd thing too, because just wasn't it a little, was it before this or a little later on in the show anyway, they had this segment where Mojo and Becky Lynch were out with some Special Olympic athletes from Team USA in Seattle, trying to spread the word about the feel-good segment, pre-taped. And it's Mojo is there, and then Mojo comes out and he starts berating. This is just weird. Anyway, so he basically... I'm talking too much about this segment, to be perfectly honest. There was nothing happening here. No Way Jose comes out, it's like, what gives, man? I just want to fight. And Mojo punches him in the mouth and walks away. All right. This is the last that we're going to talk about the Bayley situation, because backstage, Kurt Angle announces to Bayley that because of her actions tonight, she has got to go. She is heading to mandatory counseling next week. Counseling for what? This was your last chance to be friends with Sasha, so I'm sending you to counseling next week. They're not a couple. They're not married with kids or have a house. They don't have assets together. They're pro wrestlers. They were friends. They're not friends anymore. So they fight each other. This is so stupid. Why does Bayley have to go to counseling? When Kane and The Undertaker got back together, and then Kane turned on Undertaker again, they didn't go to counseling. And their kayfabe family, they let them fight. When Lex Luger turned on Sting, they didn't send Sting and Luger to counseling. They let them fight. When Hogan and Macho Man, you get the idea. It's so aggravatingly stupid. And then they're going to be telling us, don't you believe in the women's revolution? This is what the women's revolution is all about. Going into new areas and working just like the guys, as much as respect as the guys. You're not even letting angles go as the guys should. They're not even letting the angles work like the guys would work them. I don't understand, because they're friends, because they're women. I don't want to presuppose anything, right? Because I'm not in their heads, and I'm convinced that this is not an intentional sexist thing on their part. But this is what it comes across as. Oh, the girls just need to sit down and have a nice little talky talk, and everything will be fine. Next thing you know, they'll all be having smoothies together, and they'll be back to taking selfies on a yacht. There you go. Ah! Any other angle? Look, and I was about to say any other angle wouldn't go down this way. The Riot Squad took property from either a cameraman or from the WWF and smashed it. Destroyed it. The week before that, last week, they destroyed a laptop. Why aren't they sent into counseling? I think these girls have anger issues and they're taking it out on other people's property, and well, that's just not right. It's not legal. Braun Strowman, later on in the show, flips a car. He destroys a car. Why isn't Braun sent to counseling? Why isn't Braun put in jail? Do you understand? This is why I had so much trouble with last night's episode of Raw. So much stuff didn't make sense. And I'm spinning. But but so much didn't make sense. And then people are, well, that's WWE logic for you. No, that doesn't cut it. Because you're reducing by saying that, WWE, you're giving them a pass to be stupid with its audience, to make you believe any kind of shit that they want to deliver. I want my entertainment to make sense, even a modicum of sense. Even in its worst seasons, you could still argue that Lost made sense. Even if most stuff didn't. There were still things that you could connect. Like, okay, it's stretching it, but I get it. Listen. If a heel turn and a beatdown leads to a wrestler going to counseling, man, I hope WWE have found a counseling factory, because they're going to be sending guys and girls there right and left if that is the new policy. This is such a stupid twist in the angle. It's completely unnecessary. And it just set the matchup for next week. And of course you're going to want to keep the payoff for Extreme Rules. So then let the match go to a no contest. Let Sasha and Bayley beat the hell out of each other. That's what the women's revolution is, right? Characters we care about, women who can go. Let them go. Next week, I want Sasha in the ring. Right, okay, so they get into the ring, but the referee never starts the match. They start beating each other up at the top of the ramp. They start using objects and all sorts of stuff. Tables, they throw themselves into the audience. A good old-fashioned brawl, but with the women. And then at Extreme Rules, you have your first ever women's weapons match, or no DQ, I don't know. As a certain wise man once pondered, who books this shit? And at this point, I'll be honest, after the reveal that she's being sent to counseling, I was deflated. And I really had trouble keeping up with the rest of the show. Braun and KO versus Finn and Constable Corbin. Corbin looks so good in his role as Constable. He's enjoying it so much. It's a natural fit. He's going to make he's going to turn most of us into believers with this gimmick. I don't think there's been a more natural and logical fit than what, as far as character gimmicks and actual wrestlers go, than what's happening here. During the match here, Corbin hits a really harsh shoulder block on KO really early on in the match. We get some problems between Corbin and Finn. You know, Corbin tagging himself in, but KO doesn't like it. There's really two stories going on here that were told really, really well. Corbin and Finn not being on the same page, and Braun and KO being on the same page, much to Kevin Owens' surprise. You know, there's like, okay, as the match progresses, Kevin is like, all right, this is my partner. This is cool. And Owens he's a prince. Honest to God. He is so fantastic. Give this guy the smallest of angles, and he's going to turn it into magic. At some point, KO and Braun get some tag team offense in, you know, where they have both Finn and Corbin in the corners, and then they each go to their own corners. They cross each other. Kevin hitting a cannonball senton and Braun hitting a splash. Braun keeps knocking Corbin over the top rope at some point. Finn is outside too. Braun goes for the running shoulder tackle, hits them both on Finn and Baron Corbin. And then he looks at Kevin and he's like, you. And Kevin is like, what, me? Yeah, you go do it. And like, Kevin's like, all right. He goes and he starts running and he shoulder tackles Finn down, but he gets clotheslined by Baron Corbin. He really creams him. Braun then attacks Corbin, but Corbin reverses and Braun takes his obligatory shoulder spot into the post, to the ringside post. Corbin tags himself in towards the end, but Finn is so pissed he knocks Corbin off the apron. They start fighting up the ramp and get counted out for the 10 count. So Braun and Kevin Owens win. KO is ecstatic and he's beaming. He's like, yes! Oh my God, we won. And he's really happy. He's like, man, you know, I don't have any friends here anymore. Sammy is gone for months. You know, I screwed over Chris Jericho. I don't have any friends. You're my, like, Kevin is like, yes, I have a new best friend that I can count on. And it's freaking Braun Strowman. And he extends his hand out for a shake. Braun just looks down at the hand and gives him the look like Kevin said earlier. And it'll look like he wants to eat him. And then Kevin's like, oh, no. And this was all a swerve. And he runs back up the ramp. I like the idea of Braun just doing this to mess with Kevin. It's so entertaining and over the top. You know, sure, it's a heelish thing to do, but you kind of expect this from Braun as well. I think it's fun. And I said this a couple of times before Money in the Bank. I let Braun and Kevin have a program together, a good long program. These little segments are already so much fun. I hope they give an extended program. And this plays off Kevin Owens' strength so much as a heel. It's crazy. Back from commercial. Kevin goes and he hides in he goes off and hides in a locker room. Braun comes behind looking for him and is like, where is he? Can't find him. He peeks out of the locker and he has his bag there and he's, hey, security, come with me, you know, escort me to the exit. And he's running over to the exit and looking over his shoulder. And then at some point it's like, okay, security, stay there. I should be fine from this point on. That's fine. So he starts walking up the ramp to the outside. Our camera shot is now at the valet area. And he says, and he goes up to the valet and he's like, give me my keys. And the valet says, sorry, I don't have your keys, which is interesting that the valet would know exactly, oh, can we have some ID or anything like that? You know, it's like, give me my keys anyway. I don't know. I've never been a valet. I don't know how that works, but it, you know, seems to me. Anyway, the valet says, I don't have your keys. And he says, what do you mean you don't have my keys? That man has your keys. And he points over to Braun Strowman, who's there dingle-dangling the keys. And he's like, I hope you have insurance because there's your car. Camera pans over. And the car is right there, completely flipped on its back. And some dudes run in with fire extinguishers to put out, like, it seemed like it was starting to smoke. And Kevin just panics. That was good. I like that segment. Begs the question, though, why did Kevin Owens need the keys? Not Kevin Owens. Why did Braun Strowman need the keys? Couldn't he have just gone over to the car and just flipped it over? You don't need the keys to flip a car over. Unless Braun didn't know what car Kevin was driving, went to see the valet. Can I have Kevin Owens' keys? Valet, who should be fired, let's be honest, for gross negligence, gives Braun Kevin Owens' keys, and he goes around the lot going, with the security alarm, going, is it here? Boo, 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 boo. Ah, there's Kevin's car, and then flips it over. Maybe he just needed him to identify them. That's probably why Braun needed the keys. He's a smart monster. Monster in the bank. Main event is Seth Rollins versus Dolph Ziggler in his first Intercontinental Championship title defense. This was fun. This was a fun match. And I like how Dolph came out to no music, using the no music to start with, and he had his jacket on, and he unzips his jacket, and there's the belt, and as he reveals the belt, then the music hits. I thought that was nice. And then, of course, Drew comes out. And then we cut to commercial. See, of course, Seth comes out first. Then Dolph comes out. Then Drew. So as we cut to commercial, the heels are coming to the ring, and Drew's music is playing. And as we come back from commercial, and I was watching this with Lil Hayes, who's my daughter. And we come back from commercial, and she's sitting next to me, and she's like, hey, wait a minute. Why is Seth's music playing? I'm like, yeah, it is Seth's music playing. I don't know. It doesn't matter, really. First part of the match I thought was a snooze. And I was a little antsy as to where this was heading because, man, there were so many headlocks to begin with. And I did not care for that at all. And it was interesting because it was at this moment that the commentary team were talking about both guys being cardio machines. And they're there doing headlocks. They're doing rest holds. Talking about being cardio machines. Both. At some point, Dolph is in control. Of course, Dolph is in control at some point. But at some point, Seth drives Dolph into the corner turnbuckle chest first, and man, Dolph hit that hard, sold it like a freaking king. That was Bret Hart levels of turnbuckle eating. That was amazing. That was a really stiffly taken. Seth takes a huge flip over and outside to the outside. At some point, Ziggler tries to apply a sleeper hold a couple of times, but he powers out of it, and both guys run the ropes, hit a double flying cross body block, so they're both down. At some point, Ziggler is outside of the ring, and then Seth goes for his tope, but Drew clubs Seth from behind while the ref was distracted with what Dolph was doing. So Dolph gets back in control. And here's something, the whole match, they were talking about how, Drew is an X factor, he'll interfere. Oh, look at the interference. Basically, right up until this point, where Drew clubbed Seth in the back, Drew wasn't doing anything. He was just like standing there, leaning against the ring, and Seth was letting himself be distracted. Drew was just there. Okay, he may have been staring at him, may have been putting his hand on a rope, but this was all on Seth. If Seth got distracted, that's entirely on him because Drew wasn't doing anything. And can you blame Seth for being distracted by Drew McIntyre? Oh, Lord. Where are we? So at some point, the ref expulses Drew from ringside, but then there's a kerfuffle in the ring. Seth rolls up Dolph, but and goes for the pin, but Drew is distracting the ref during this kerfuffle thing. And finally Seth hits a tope on both Dolph and Drew. Dolph hits a sick DDT right on the apron, which is the hardest part of the mat. I don't know if you knew this. That was a really well executed, beautifully sold as well. Great buckle bomb on Dolph and a super kick to the face for the 1-2 count by Seth. The live crowd is on fire at this point. The match really picked up at this point. And the live crowd is buying into all of it. Ziggler meets Seth up on the top rope. He headbutts Dolph off and hits a frog splash on Dolph, but it's not enough to put him away. Just gets the 2. They start missing their finishers on each other. The stomp, the zigzag. Eventually, Dolph does hit the zigzag, but Seth kicks out. Both guys are on the top rope. They start messing around a little. It leads into Seth hitting the superplex into a Falcon Arrow. And this is where Drew runs in and causes the DQ. I'm happy that he hit the move and that it came across as a big finisher because it looks huge. Anyway, so Drew runs in and forces the DQ. I don't care much for that finish. They should have. I don't know. But what do you get? What do you do? Both men look strong. I just didn't. The end. This is one of these instances where the ending makes sense because both guys end up looking super strong. Both are protected. Dolph still hangs on to the belt, but it just takes the wind out of a real ending because the match had built wonderfully to this point. So the heels are beating up on Seth. Roman's music hits and he comes down for the save. And once again, hoping some of that sweet, sweet Seth Rollins heat will rub off on him. Roman hits an incredible spear on Drew from the outside. Like a beautiful, beautiful spear. And that's your show. I'm going to be honest with you guys. It's a very, very, very down the middle show for me. I think that everything that I would usually chalk up to as faults in logic that we have to expect from WWE really got to me. Everything bugged me. From the moment that they announced that the Extreme Rules multi-man match wasn't going to be held because Brock Lesnar, to the crescendo of Bayley having to go to counseling, there were too many things not making any sense to me to sit down and use this moment of and use my suspension of disbelief. I suspect you don't believe things. My suspension of disbelief to just enjoy the show. There was too much garbage. And I hate that. I hate it when that happens. But man, and like last week, it was, again, a show that was all about the angles, the stories, more than the matches. I don't think any matches really stood out aside from the main event, which was fantastic. But everything else was just either par for the course or negligible. But you can only go so far into promoting your angles first. Last week they did it really, really successfully. I was looking forward to last night's Raw. I liked where all these new chess pieces had been placed, and I was like, man, I'm really excited to see where this goes. But I don't know, man. It just fell flat. It was a flat show for me. Not a bad show, just flat, and I was too aggravated. I thought that that's it. I thought that the things that were supposed to connect didn't connect, and it just stopped making sense at some point. Anyway, so that's my review. Guys, thank you very much for hanging out with me today. Don't forget to check out my SmackDown review tomorrow right here on the YouTube channel. And hey, why don't you go ahead and subscribe while you're at it? That way you'll know if I have new videos popping up. On Wednesday evening after NXT, find me on the Periscope so that you can join me for my live review, my live post-match, post-NXT review. And on Thursday, come back and find my review of both days of the WWE UK Championship Tournament. That's going to be exciting. I'm looking forward to day 2. It should be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to SmackDown again tonight. Hopefully, they continue on that really, really exciting trend that they've been on since the past couple of weeks. Guys! Oh, and you can also find me on Twitter. Always find me on Twitter. I'm so easy to find on Twitter. Twitter is Warren Hayes headquarters. You can find me at Mr. Warren Hayes on the Twitter.com website. So, thank you once again for joining me, and ladies and gentlemen, I'll see you next time.